Yeah.
Now, as soon as if somebody says to me, I like all music, I find it a real turn off.
Yes.
You know? I wouldn't say I don't know all music, but what I know, what I like, I love to death.
Yeah.
AI will never stub its toe and think, ow, it will never. I went to Wembley the week and saw my football team. It won't have the joy. It will never get married. It will never be broken-hearted. Part of my job or our job is to try and remind people that audio is pre-linguistic and it's pre-rational. You feel it first. So it's an emotional response.
Thanks for clicking on our latest Q&A where we're chatting to Gary Hilton from Gas Music. Oh my gosh, we're covering a lot. I don't actually know how long this episode's going to be at this time, but we're covering music trends, what moves us as humans, why we don't need to fear AI, the secret to a long and happy and fruitful creative life. I hope you enjoy it. Gary, fantastic to see you. Thank you so much for coming in to chat to us. So, Gas Music, tell us what you do and how did you get into that amazing career journey that you've had?
Great. I stumbled into it, I think, 10 years ago, set up Gas Music, having done 20 years in the corporate world, selling stuff for money. They were high floating business, specialty chemicals, global business. I studied mechanical engineering, university, but always had an acoustic guitar.
Okay, so
always had
music's at your
music's always been
DNA.
Yeah. But then I guess wasn't really brave enough to get into the creative world, you know, because I think the one thing which I've learnt going through what I'm doing now at Gas, which is making music for TV, film, advertising, or anything where there's a visual content, it needs audio because they do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think it was a confidence thing of thinking I'm going to give it a go now, and that was partly because of a desire and I love to go and try and make music because I love music and I love film.
Yeah.
And also not being jaded or disillusioned with the corporate world, but just I've been presented a few, they were dodgy decisions or dodgy things I was asked to do by my business, which I thought were almost backhanded and underhand. So I thought, I ain't going to do that to my great customers. I'm not going to sell them
something you didn't believe in.
Yeah, well, the truth has a flex, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and it has a breaking point. So it coincided with the breaking point. I'm not doing that. But I'm going to do. But if I was selling products for cash,
yeah,
why don't I try and make some music and sell that for money? So at the time there was me and a guy called Steve, and GAS was a nice acronym for Gary and Steve.
Brilliant.
But at the same time, if you look, the history of music, which is 7 notes, and Pythagoras discovered them, and then you've got the frequency of the spheres, of which there were 7 spheres at the time. And Pythagoras believed that the universe was speaking to us and singing to us. That's the music of the spheres, of which there were 7. And the thing which made all this music transmit through the spheres and across the universe was, as we know, ether. And ether's a gas. So I'm Gas delivering all this beautiful music to TV, film and advertising. So there's the real reason, and that's a nice philosophical baloney explanation which might sound
No,
cool.
I love it. It's almost as involved as how we came up with Composed and Compelled, which is not ChatGPT. No AI was involved in that title, but we're thinking they make music and they compel people to do things.
That's it. So
you can see.
Enough. Well, but I've, people in my family, from great uncles and my dad, would pass these acronyms, and one being keep it simple, and my uncle Alan would say, it's double S, keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
You being the stupid, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
So
they're
10
good
years
life
ago,
lessons, aren't they? Just to not to pick you up on something you said, but when you said about not being brave enough, was that because potentially music or the creative arts is seen as one of those are nice to have, but you'll never make any money, or because you were in a very settled career and potentially it's harder to, you would imagine, to make a career in music creation than it is in sales?
Yeah, probably a bit of all, but I think less so the confidence thing, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Even you say it's 20%, you're thinking, can I put myself in out of my comfort zone?
Yeah.
And I remember when we were in bands and you're trying to sell your product.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you make music, there's no audience. Sorry, there's no demand. When you're selling trainers, there is a demand because people are feeling they want to walk around. But making a piece of art, there is no demand. So that's the one thing which is a brave step.
Or until they've experienced it, or even then.
Even then, they don't know, because either songs which will be written or films which will be made or creative content which will be made in 6 months' time or a year's time, there is no specific demand for that thing if you believe creativity is something truly new. So there is that issue. So it was partly worried about that, and then being I am a musician and I've been written songs. You think you're not that precious,
yeah,
but you are. There's a lot of things where you either stand on stage and whether it's to 3 people or 300 people or more, you're still at the peril of being booed off. Or
you're bearing your soul, aren't you?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of that, and then a steady career. So I did 20 years sales director in a couple of big businesses. To think, well, I'm going to forget that.
Yeah, it is brave. It's a bold,
but the same process. Dare I say it on a lovely, engaging podcast of talking about AIDA and attention, interest, desire, decision, and action. That process is a universal process. From either making friends or trying to get somebody to think you're good when you're talking to the telly, it's still about getting some kind of attention.
Yeah.
Then people live or die on that. Then if there's some interest, to keep on going. And then if there's a desire, some kind of engagement, and then there'll be a decision to, hopefully, when I'm making music, that decision is I'm going to work with you.
Yeah.
The action is they give me a purchase order and some pound notes.
Yeah.
So that process, I thought, to answer your question, of 20 years of doing that stuff, I thought, well, the process is still exactly the same. So and if that's weighted at 80% and the 20% of making, this is favourable. So you can apply this process to making some decent content.
And it was a good punt, wasn't it? Because obviously you're extremely successful. And just tell us kind of the sort of things that you guys get involved in, that you're asked to do, and the results that you generate from your work and from your creativity.
I'll try and pick a piece from each of the revenue streams. So one, we do bespoke music.
Yeah.
So we did a bespoke piece for the Winter Olympics last time round for BBC, and that won a couple of pencils, and it was BAFTA nominated.
Yeah.
So that's a bespoke, make something up to go against the Ice Cube. Beautiful piece of music. Sometimes people will ring us up and say, we did a thing for the Scottish Government on net zero. We just want some sound design. So here's a piece, some footage. Make the sound of the sea, make the sound of the boat, make something ominous. So you'll spot the media, make a list of what we need to have there. There'll be SFX, or there'll be Foley, or a mixture of what we call sound design.
Yeah.
So that's another thing we do. We did a thing for...
The SFX are kind of off-the-shelf sounds, and Foley is where you're physically recording, recreating the sound from hitting a melon with a hammer or whatever.
I'll send it to you afterwards. If you want to put it in, there's a great thing we use, right? And it's our creative director, Greg, just found some old footage from Disney.
Yeah.
And as I've got older and greyer, the guys who were older and greyer, and here's the animation running with somebody in a car, and then somebody behind going, and then scratching things, because that's what it is. The creativity is then what goes on with making sure, one, that the noise matches the image, and then it's how we perceive it, and then add the extra bits in our minds. So that's sound design. We put Christopher Eccleston on a piece for Media City, Mel Gilroy on a piece for a zoo, so that's a voiceover. We want a famous person to voice this commercial. Can you find the voiceover to do that? So we do that. And then we do commercial supervision. You'll see on TV at the moment Tombola ad, which is a piece by Major Lazer called Pond de Floor. A very, very annoying piece of music, but the brand said we want something which is a juxtaposition of Tombola being fun and mainstream.
Yeah.
So we want something obscure and kind of annoying, but for a weird dance.
So it sticks and you.
So we will find out the track, license the track, who owns the track, do the licensing. So that's called music supervision. And then a similar one to that would be Eye of the Tiger went on Fairer Liquid. So there's a whole list of find us a commercial track.
Yeah.
So is it available? How much does it cost? Can we get the copyright? Can we use the original master, or do we remake it? So we will remake an original song.
Is that like a sound alike, or is that, or you're basically recreating the same song?
Good question. So sometimes, like for the Eye of the Tiger on Fairer Liquid, there was a clause on the moral rights of the two writers from, who wrote that? Survivor?
Yeah.
So I think the keyboard player and the guitarist had something really, really super strict. So if you're going to use that, it needs to sound pretty good, because we don't want people to be hearing it and thinking they've gone a bit. It's like a moral right of you cannot do that. We put Somebody to Love by Queen on Dreams the Bed. So can anybody find me Somebody to Love? But in the that was a sound-alike, but it still had to sound not a rubbish-alike. It had to a certain level. And the small printer said you're not allowed to try and emulate or recreate Brian May's guitar.
Right. Wow.
Whether that's because he didn't think people could actually get it, and he didn't want to have his art belittled.
It's
in
kind
a
of
way.
You'd imagine one.
So that's
of
what you call that's a rework. There's one for London only for EMR, London Expressway. How long did it take to get from St Pancras to Luton Expressway? 32 minutes. So the creative team came up with, well, I've got 32 minutes. So it'd be So Solid Crew. 32 seconds to go. So it became, I've got 32 minutes to go to only cost a tenner.
Yeah.
And we turned that into a wonderful rap song.
And is that your creative, or do you find some clients come to you with a blank canvas or something? Some say, we want this track. What can you do, Gary?
With those, they came and said, we want that.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with the London Expressway, the creative was, which I do like, but I'm trying to pull people away from being a little bit reserved.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you do a demo, or you've got people coming to you and bringing you demos. They will say, it's a bit rubbish. I think, well, why are you giving it to me then? You should be coming to me and saying, this is great. This is
what we live by. This is our.
So the creative would come and say, it might be a bit annoying. You're making your purpose, your job, is to turn the people who are watching the telly, into buyers.
Yeah.
And if you think saying, I've got 32 minutes to go, it's only going to cost a tenner, and you think it'll work to sell more tickets, that's what you're being paid to do.
Yeah.
So embrace your creativity.
Yeah.
So we worked together. We brought the client into the session. The rappers were really nice people. Work hard, be nice. The rappers were nice people. The creative were nice, and the client was all onboarded, on the same page, and they had a fun time, and it worked really well. I think they've relicensed that, so that's a reworking.
Yeah.
The Tom Boulder thing, the creatives, the challenge to us was, can you find us a banger?
Oh, is that. Yeah, I want to go viral. That's the question. We make us a video and we want it to go viral. And it's like, okay, let's. We all do, but let's just have a look at that. It's not where's the shelf? Viral videos. Yeah. Is that a similar thing? A banger is, because it could be anything, couldn't it?
It could, yeah. But we were chatting before about what trend on TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok. It's all over the place. Is that the arbiter of style? Or the arbiter of it's not style, it's not cool, but is that the arbiter of the numbers, the populace?
Yeah.
And that depends whether you want to go chasing the populace. But I do find at my age you will end up going all the way back round, data, insights, strategy, collection, in all these different deliverables.
Yeah.
And a lot, by the time we're coming to actually make a piece of content, we've actually forgot what we're doing it for.
Yeah.
To turn people into buyers and, crucially, entertainment.
I think that's fascinating from a brief point of view, because again, in our industry, where obviously we're creating visual content, quite often we have that conversation. Let's get the brief back out. Let's get that original proposal that made you think, yeah, we want to work with you guys, and let's look at, and we say it in the best will in the world, your C-suite are not the audience. They never were. If they were, this would be a different film.
Yeah.
But the audience are people who might want to buy engineering services, or you say, or computers, or luxury holidays. Yeah. Let's not lose. So I think it's the same in every industry, where you have to keep reminding yourself, what was that end goal? Sell more stuff, entertain, sell records, whatever. Because there's a lot of noise out there, isn't there, that can sway you off a different path, and you can look back and think, oh God, where are we?
Yeah. Well, I think, and it's been said, not from me, but I think the industry I came from and I've gone to, you forget. I think you need to remove the first descriptor and say industry. As soon as you say it's an industry, it then means that it is a process.
Yeah.
And if there is a process, it means that you have to start somewhere and end somewhere. Yeah. I know a ex-boss of mine, his phrase was always, when this noise was coming through, he said, well, calm down. Let's begin with the end in mind. And you've just been able to say beginning
reverse engineer it.
And then I'm back to, which was stop overthinking. So we're trying to sell, if it's bums on seats on a train, or we're trying to sell more cans of Coca-Cola, we're trying to sell beds. And not, and just another thing I picked up was the thing you've got to think about if you want somebody to actually watch that for 30 seconds, because we've got double screen and multiple distractions, you've got something to cut through, is, the price of admission into somebody's brain has got to be entertainment.
Yeah.
So, I watched that. It's super, super, super simple.
Yeah.
But the more we overthink it, and the more we get into, the data and data sets, who I want to sell a pair of cool. But the new Nike ad, which they spent an absolute fortune on, who's that aimed at? And look, everybody's in that is in a certain demographic. But who are the people who are actually paying, 100 quid, 150 quid for a pair of trainers? These are kind of not, that what we'd say is a target audience. So what is your target audience?
Yeah, we were. My wife Claire, who runs the Bigtank business with us, is a runner, and there was recent sort of backlash within the running community about the campaign that as I say Nike, because it annoys Lee Ash. If you're watching, he'll be freaking out because I've not said Nike, but that's why I do it. And there were sort of billboards and things around park run that's basically along the lines of, we're not here to walk, or we're not to sell more of these high-end trainers. But then when you look at 70-80% of their market is for people who might do park run or walk or just like wearing them, not the hardcore runners. And it started a lot of discussion, because you think, I get it, you want to sell more high-end trainers, so how are you going to do that? You want to feel elite. You want to feel, I'm not just a park runner. That's great.
Yeah.
But don't then do that in front of the 80%, that was our take on, of people who are buying your shoes anyway. And I think that kind of thing, it's not, as you say, there's so much you've got to think about, and think about who are the big range customers. And you say, if you are going for niche, then you have got to be a bit different, haven't you? But without peeing off all the others.
Yeah, it's a good, but it always strikes me, going for niche, there are so many thing, of its brands and cults and styles.
Yeah.
And in my humble opinion, they all start off as they are niche.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, if you think,
once that starts,
who was it? Maybe going back, showing my age with when the guy from the Stranglers started wearing white trainers and a suit. Thinking, wow.
Yeah.
No, you see every single football manager who walks out there, he's got cool white trainers on, and he wears a black suit. But that's a timeless thing of 40 years. But he didn't start. He started being he started to try and be an individual. Man, belief in individuality, and it will catch up.
Yeah.
And I think the same things with Coca-Cola. Set out to, I want to teach the world to sing. That was they first and foremost. We're selling it to everybody. Wow, it's very brave.
Yeah.
So I think at both ends of that scale, I think you should not overthink what your idea is, and just make it creative and cool and engaging. We all will remember the Tango ad.
Yeah.
I mean, who was that aimed at? It's probably is it 14 and 15-year-olds who were going to go slapping people around the back to be Ubin Tango, but suddenly it became a cult thing. What's Up from Budweiser became a cult thing because it was funny and engaging, but it was memorable. I don't think that any of those two ads would have got made if you'd have had a creative team with, I think, a lot of noise in the middle from, we've got an account handler, and then a handler to handle the account handler, and then maybe some kind of client services director to handle the account handler, or make sure the account's being handled by the sub-account.
They're those kind of ideas that sorry to be a bit crude, but the 3 a.m. trip to the loo, and then, oh my God, can we get, let's run with it, and then, that happens. Yeah.
Well, I think the client's always going to, they make because they pay.
Yeah.
But then, and I think the distance between only because I've been reading the Hotspur and Hotspur, the Saatchi and Saatchi, they were always very, very close.
Yeah.
And then we seem to put different layers, and not necessarily Chinese whispers, but I think the more the distances, the more the questions of why and how are we doing that, where you should be trusting these people because of their back catalogue and what they can do.
Yeah.
And then likewise, because you trust these people, they'll go back and say, trust me, it's going to work.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg being told by John Williams on Jaws,
Yeah.
trust me, because he laughed.
2 notes.
It's never going to work.
Yeah.
Well, trust me. And the studio was saying,
It did
Stephen,
reasonably well, that, didn't it?
yeah, but the studio said, Stephen, we need a blockbuster. There's so much pressure.
Yeah,
I think it's worth using that as how you get creativity against adversity. And it's as easier said than done.
Trust. That's the people you pay. You're paying them for a reason, and
and I think that's
to
been
support and allow creativity, and obviously helpful if you've got a bit of a track record to say trust us. We're within these sessions, AI, of course, it's gonna come up, and I, as someone of a certain age in a creative industry, although we're providing business services with what we do. I think AI is amazing. We're using it more, and I absolutely don't fear it, because the clients we work with are very human-led, and I'll probably be lambasted for saying I think there's lots of areas of this that are AI-proof, and the more AI, then just hearing your story when I was, Jay Kingston said, "Oh, you should make Gary. He makes music for." I'm like, is that still a thing? Because you can do that in ChatGPT, and then you talk to you and you listen, you go, okay, now I get it. AI proof. I would, that's a bold thing to say. What's your take on it? And are you worried about, how it's going to change what you do?
Yeah, all of the previous, and it does come up. So the two columns. One's a personal one. So
yeah.
It took me a while to get my head around Ataris, Game Boys, video games, and then going for interviews back in the day and saying, are you conversants with Excel? As bizarre as it sounds,
yeah.
Are you computer savvy? Meaning, can you use Word and Excel? I thought, this is for writing a letter. This is for adding up. This is for mucking playing games. And then all those different iterations. I've been through the industries I've gone through. These have been thrust upon me. You're going to have this big thing, and you're going to put a floppy disk. But it's just helping me work. And then we're going to have emails, because I remember pigeonholes where memos were coming round, and you would sign them, and then that's something. But it's just been I think it's a constant evolution. And then AI. I think the terminology is all wrong. And then because little quips of what happened to real intelligence, as though real intelligence disappeared, and it's this artificial intelligence. Well, a spreadsheet was this artificial because it served you drawing lines. I know it's rather simplistic, and I just see it as it's an extension of what we got from the wonders of going on the World Wide Web, and then wonders of going on Google to be able to search rather than going to the library. And now we've seen it making things. The biggest, so I think it's just a normal. It's just been a general
thing, isn't it?
Expansion. When we use it, I use Suno. I need something which sounds like Daft Punk, so I can go. I need something, and then press, and I get 53, and I go, okay. It's a bit crap. That's a bit crap. Then that's okay.
Yeah.
And then you go, that's okay. So I think I'm just trying to get back to that, but meandering then. So what does your end client want? Something which is good or great. Something which is okay. And he's trying to avoid having something which is rubbish. I think that's the barometer.
Yeah.
So my biggest fear then of going through, because I can use that tool, is when I go, that's okay, and you go back to your client and they will say, yeah, okay. So the more acceptance we have for being able to be less
mediocrity and
risk averse, then mediocrity, then it does become it's the evil of creativity, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's not necessarily AI, is it? That's the acceptance of it as a species that we're kind of like, whether it be service or cost of living, we kind of have a moan but we still go and pay that for a pint, or we still, if as a species we're like, we don't really care anymore, then we're all screwed, aren't we?
Yeah, so I think some big, well, there's three, there was one, but they're all four. So my worry with that is, if we then start doing things quickly and thinking that's progress, we're snookered, because it's not.
Yeah.
Because you still have to go back to this, is it, and everybody has their the spidey senses of what's good and great. I think we might have said last time, you can judge a book never judge a book by the cover, but always judge a person by the record collection. It does give you a feel of what their barometer of good and great is, or what they I really, really love. But if you again settling for mediocrity, we're in a real state. So doing things quickly doesn't mean progress, and also having your client at the same time saying, "I've done this really, really quickly." Low cost, doesn't mean value. But what it does do, it just puts this massive weighting on it's okay and acceptable. So my biggest worry then on the creative side is then the more that becomes the norm, and the more that we're expected to say a 30-second ad advertising new TVs, and it'll just go, here's the setup, here's the jeopardy, and here's the call to action. Here's a new TV. It's dead good. Do you want one? This is where you go. But I'm seeing more and more of that. So that level of creativity then just comes down to say, well, I can use AI to this, and I can just slap a bit of music on.
I think that's
the most important thing is I want eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
But then you say, but you've got, say, 10 million eyeballs on that. We're all going, I've seen that before. So taking that negativity, I come all the way.
But it makes it easier then for something very special to just pop up and go, because you've levelled your playing field with AI. That's why.
They go up. So we should applaud.
Is that it?
That's the positivity.
Yeah, so it's fantastic. Let's be excited.
Yeah, so we should do. So I think, and I'm seeing that coming. And I'm an optimistic person. I do think it's just a click away. We will get that and think, it's a brilliant process and it's allow us. But you can take that then to your client and say, you do something good or great. I just want something that's okay because we can do it quickly. Yeah. Which means you're going to get this, and we can do it cost efficiency. It's not. We can do it cost efficiently. It's not adding value to you. Then you can bugger off then and listen to all these. I think they're the devil in the creative world. They're your information consultants and strategists who are looking at who we're selling to and where we're selling to, and it's somebody who lives on this street because they'll buy Nike trainers and they want to buy a Sony TV and they want to go on holiday and they're under 50, so therefore they won't go to Clear or Stay Sure Insurance. No, they won't. It's rubbish. Forget it. Just make a great piece of content.
Yeah, and I think it is that what we said earlier about focusing on the end result. And you say if your end result to get 1 million clicks, okay. If the end result is we need one person to watch something around suicide prevention, or one person to be a blood donor, or one person to buy into a luxury car brand that's a bit special, then I think we'll see that the volume of people we need to, and that's always been the case for us. As we've gone on, we don't need a lot of customers to be busy. We need quite a few of the right customers. Who appreciate how we work, because how we work isn't right for everyone. If it was, I'd probably be live streaming from my yacht right now. But I don't want that anyway. I want to care about what we do, and for our clients to care. There was a phrase that one of probably my 3 a.m. trip to the loo and it was the people that care will care that you cared. And if they don't care that you cared, then they're not the people that care, so don't worry about it. I should be dressed as Bud.
Well, it is. I think it is. It's ever so simple. Back to right at the start. I set out to try and make music for money, but each of those columns would suggest it's got to be pretty good. And who actually wants all your revenue streams and the reason behind it? They follow. But as long as you can and stay true to that. And I think on our podcast we had Steve Harrison, who's a legendary creative, and he said in his well, I've got a northern accent, but in his wonderful Blackpool accent was to make great work with great people for a great budget, and 2 out of 3 is success.
Yes, love that.
Off you pop. Because whatever's missing will follow by having the other 2 in place, and more invariably we find we end up doing great work with great people, and once that becomes repeated, you do catch up.
Kind of last question for me really, for anyone not, and I think what's been good about this is it's not been hooked around, we're just a couple of creatives sort of waxing lyrical and fearing AI. I think that there's life lessons, there's business lessons, but someone who will come to you and say, Gary, I want to make money from being creative, or not that, I want to be successful being creative, or I want to be successful in my business, whatever that looks like. If you had to give just 3 quick-fire bits of advice, knowing what you know now, what would you say to them?
You've got to be thick-skinned.
Yeah.
Got to be nice. You've got to work hard. If you're going into the creative world, I think you try and be original.
Yeah.
But those would be three, but they would apply to anything really.
Yeah.
And I think back to, I think I went through that. I've had friends who've gone into the musical world, and speaking to them. One recently was saying, I remember being absolutely scared to death, and still am.
Yeah.
But at least I could pick that up and say, at least there's the scared to death bit.
Yeah.
Get over it. My wife, my daughter, and my brother are teachers, and they will say occasionally they will come back to that same thing. This is the job I want to do, and I love it. But my fear is sometimes I've got to go and confront a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So the advice would be, if there are these things which you see as issues, quickly get your head around. And if that's the job, you've got to. They won't disappear, but you don't. I don't get they put them in a box and put them in the bed, because your fears have to be there right in front of you and say, that's the thing which is going to really, really, really upset me, but this other thing is going to really, really make me happy. So confront and understand and know where your fears are, but be good and work hard, and then always remember, you don't have to pay anything to be creative, and there's no price of admission to come up with a good idea. The thing is, you have to be ready for somebody saying, no. You're not going to make Jaws. You're not going to do the Guinness Surfer. We're not going to do the tango thing. But you've got to be push. And that's back to your, endurance, I guess.
Yeah. Which I guess is a lot of it fed by the passion and the belief that this is
it. Yeah.
the right direction for you. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
I love chatting to you when we first. And just on that, if you want to end it now, Gary, it's been great seeing you. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
However, if they are going to allow me to add this bit on, the event that we went to, so the Cube Fest in Manchester, is typically not something I will go to because it's Manchester and it felt very media. And whilst we're very creative, we're a little bit insular here and sometimes too much. But I went to it, and my kind of thoughts, just to bring it down to AI, is AI wouldn't have suggested me to go to that event. It would have said, let's go to Engineering Fest, let's go to, based on 70% of our work. And if I had have done that, if I hadn't have gone, I wouldn't have met you and had my mind blown, and you wouldn't be sat here now. So,
well, so just wax lyrical for a minute on the AI thing, because you do get asked all the time. And it changes every time I get asked a question. But coming into my mind now, because I've got a sore hip, and it makes me feel that AI will never have a sore hip. AI will never stub its toe and think, ow, it will never. I went to Wembley the week and saw my football team. It won't have the joy. It will never get married. It will never be broken-hearted. And it will never appreciate just what it's like to sit down and enjoy having a chat. It will never, ever have those things. So as long as it never has those things, because those emotions are central to every single thing we do, or from looking at, from hearing and feeling. It might catch up, but going back to this, that the balance of, being creative and being ambitious, that it will never do that. But if our creativity and our ambitions do start coming down, then there will be parity. As the guys from GPT had said, famously, there's a recent TED Talk where he was saying the first iteration of ChatGPT was the best, because what's happened for iteration number 2, ChatGPT, is it's been fed with a load of rubbish and it's been countered with a load of good stuff. So the best you can ever get from this is going to be an average. So if we become average, parity. But as long as we can continue to push forward, you've nothing really to worry about other than this tool doing a great job of making your life a lot easier. And it allows you, I think a nice acronym from somebody at the BBC has said, when we're looking at 5 different ideas for this particular creative execution, give me another Winter Olympics. Kind of okay. But I've got 5 ideas, which I don't have to go and make. It's 5 ideas I can take to market and say, and they go, yes, maybe. And then off you move. So you've failed quickly and saved a fortune.
So there's no doubt, obviously, that music, not just audio, but music can alter our mood. It can make us happy, sad. I've always been quite proud internally of my ridiculous range of music that I genuinely love, from manufactured techno, hard housey stuff that crap, as my brother would call it, that I'd stopped listening to when I was 17. I'm 53 now and I'm still enjoying it, to classical, to some jazz, to, you know, whatever it is, you know, hip hop, rap, whatever. And I'm quite blessed, I think, that I can really get into some different stuff. I'm not an audiophile. I can't tell you the reasons why, but is there a reason why those different genres can affect me? Now, some people predisposed to only listen to one and not appreciate others, or because that will feed into how you're steering your clients' audiences, won't it?
Yeah. Well, you've got it's audiophile, and well, it's personality. So you, Rob, you have your bunch of records, and people say, "Oh, I'm just into this particular niche," or "I like all music."
Yeah.
Now, as soon as if somebody says to me, "I like all music," I find it a real turn off.
Yes.
You know, I wouldn't say I don't know all music, but what I know, what I like, I love to death.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And from sleeve, from listening from lyrics, and if that's only my little bit, I appreciate that. I have a passion and a love for that particular music. So when you then put it back to, you know, the brand is asking what they want, you've got to try and step partly from what they think is what their tastes are, but you've got to think, you know, what best will fit with the brand. So what we try and say is, how do you want your audience to be affected by your piece of content? Yes. So when we're looking at
what question,
so what's trending on TikTok now? So I want it to be driven by TikTok. So no. You've and I think we've got that tipping point that all wrong. You know, the arrow comes from the creativity.
Tails wagging the dog, isn't it?
It is,
yeah.
And we've allowed that to happen. But the good thing is we can take ownership of that again and change it from that. But fundamentally, and this is right up to speed now, and it's worth just putting forward that there are, when you see a visual, it's a rational assessment because it goes in through your eyes, into your brain, and you work out colours, shapes, and how. Because as human beings, for all existence, we've been driven by patterns. We're looking for patterns.
Yeah.
And
keeps us alive, doesn't it?
And it's food and safety and things we like. You know, there's an Andrew Marr book of saying, you know, we've not really changed at all. We just communicate differently, but we like spicy things, we like sweet things, and we like shiny things. You know, which goes to the way we dress and the way we talk. We're super simple. But so visuals on content, we see it, but we have to work out. The thing we forget, and part of my job or our job is to try and remind people that audio is pre-linguistic and it's pre-rational. You feel it first. So it's an emotional response.
Yeah. And
that's so powerful. So then in terms of personal taste of what you like, so if it's techno, you'll be into, it's that 150 BPM because we need that, it's just a beat. And that's what gets you. And things chapel everywhere.
Now at the thought of
but then if you can go back into, the briefing and the references are Eagles of Death Metal.
Yeah.
You know, what's making that happen? Well, that's probably garage rock or punk rock or Stooges. And why is it called garage rock? It's called garage rock because they were in small confined spaces. So they're playing loud because they wanted the energy of loudness, but it's reverberating at you, and that gives it its, you know, the sound and the definition.
Yeah.
If you look at, so it's a super important tool to actually get the emotion. So forget what actual style you want, what kind of effect do you want? And back to the old sales process, and it annoys me sometimes that we don't use audio to get somebody's attention. So in the first 5 seconds of an ad or a piece of content, do something. I used this yesterday and we ended up laughing because we thought initially it was a really crap idea. And I said, what you're trying to get at the start is a ta-da! And I thought, yeah, that's actually what we're trying to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And why do you think we have that?
Yeah.
You know, a fanfare at the start.
Yeah.
Or do you want to put a fanfare at the end as a call to action to actually wrap the thing up? And all you're looking for is an open and an exclamation mark. So if you think of that in audio, rather than saying, I want to put Metallica on there, all right, but we had a phase of going through, is it Ludovici, Einaudi? We want Einaudi. Piano, why do you want piano? Do you want it because he's cool and that's what you're reading? And it's kind of, but no, take a step back and maybe look at some of the, the classical canon. I'm limited, but
and so much of that one it will be potentially from clients because they like it. They were listening to it in the car on the way. They love that track. Yeah. So let's. Yeah. Hello, we're the audience.
And that's where you're back to those layers to be strong and say, well, no, hold on. But that's how you set up and manage through.
Yeah.
So the things I remember from a child, and I remember, and I don't think it's remembering the memory of thinking it was the memory, but obla di obla da when I was whatever 2 or 3, but it just being
on.
and it's both the nursery rhyme, and then the older you get, you think that you're becoming clever, and the more cerebral, and think I actually remember life goes on, and that's it. There's something there which got you, but I think that's back to the human beings wanting to have patterns. We need patterns. Jumping back to that emotional thing, we still have our amygdala, the reptilian brain. It's hardwired to sound. So when you hear a foot on a branch cracking, it's still wired in for thousands of years.
This
so
could be coming to
use that now.
Yeah, hurt me. Or
Human beings only have 2 fears. Do you know that?
tax returns and the pie shop
Coming home late when your
pies.
wife's waiting for you. Yeah.
God forbid that ever happens.
2 fears. It's the fear of heights or falling
and loud noises.
And loud noises.
Yeah.
You know, I'm putting it, but so use that. What do you mean loud noises? Well, it's a dynamic. You think of, I mean, dynamics are used. I can't think of the composers, but you keep quiet and then you go loud. Yeah. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I know it's super simple, but use that to get somebody's attention.
Because loud noises would be something is charging at us, or something's broken, or something's fallen.
Yeah. Well, if you think of the jaw scene, I know we've mentioned the 2 notes, but there are times when you see the bit from underneath, you just get a different filter of.
It's just staggering.
Because it's working with you, psychologically, because it's emotive. So I remember the Beatles, and then I was too young, but I got punk rock thing. Never mind the bollocks. I think it was the greatest album ever made, because I've worked my head over a lot of things working up from that, and the amount of things which have come from that, both from a business perspective. Punk rock was all about DIY, do it for yourself. Don't be scared. Get out there. You don't have to be
just stick it to him. Just
angry, and it's no. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So I think, and then which came from that was, well, you can only allow you to go back. You know, why did the Sex Pistols? What did they come from? And it's Stooges and MC5. But then you go into Factory in New York, and you know the birth of when they made their record. They were only 58, 60, 20 years pop music. Bill Haley and Johnny Cash and Elvis. It was only 20 years old, pop music, to make that. So that was the first thing I was into, and then liked to wear black clothes. So I got, you know, the Cure and the Sisters of Mercy and Powerhouse, but which then was rebranded after it became the thing to be called, is it goth? Right. And then the different iterations, but then we went through the 80s with New Order, didn't we? And there's like, what was the Sound of Manchester, New Order, Smiths, and from Joy Division was the other. Unknown Pleasures, one of my favourite records of all time. But if we can tag this on to the end of that similar question, I do think nothing's really changed in about 2005. Right. And we just seem to be funneling everything in, because now, you know, my son listens to the Smiths and he'll listen to Tyler the Creator. Yeah. As though there is no separation. Yeah. Because it all works.
Yeah. My brother was 3 years older than me, and so while I was Stu Allen, and all I listened to was 150, 160 BPM, you know, crap, as he would call it, and he'd have the Cramps, the Smiths, James, and then lo and behold, 5 or 6 years later, I start to see some James records, and I'm like, oh, and I'm listening to the words, and because it's not just that rubbish that my brother's listening to and he doesn't like. Amazing stuff, but still always like the. I was listening to Andy Whitby on the way in this morning, actually, but my inner child wanted some nonsense, but I just love the fact that whilst the world is faster than ever, we're still cave men and women and cave people, aren't we? Just trying to get on and
and I think
make it to the end with as many smiles as we can and a few quid.
Yeah, that's it. We forget that. I think just back to that Andrew Marr book in the middle, which will go through, you know, all these centuries and eons and epochs and different, you know, changes in governments, and when it does boil down to, you know, what has really changed. If we're going to go back 2,000 years and try to say, yeah, I've got one of these iPhones and the guy would, so you can communicate.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I went through a phase of when, as I said earlier, when the computers came in, and thinking, well, I still have to go to meetings. Well, we can do it with Zoom meeting, but you know, you miss that. whether they supplement probably 100% of communications. I need you to do this next Tuesday. End of Zoom call. See you later. But when they're trying to say, I've got, these I'm unsure of. We'll sit down here and we'll sketch this, or we'll try that. Is what we miss. But I think that's a positive, because we can go back. How can we get better meetings? We can have them face to face.
Yeah.
But and then I can't remember what's written outside the studio. Everybody has a soundtrack. Yeah. Everything that's ever happened in your life has a soundtrack. And then there's a Michael Basquiat. If art decorates space, music decorates time.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I hear the verve. What was the verve? The Rolling Stones.
Oh, Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah. I am there in my white Fiesta RS Turbo, and my mate Chris in his Corolla GT, and we'd just drive around Manchester and park up near Cat. And I used to play that so loud in that, and every time I hear it, I am there, wishing I never sold it, because it's probably worth a bloody fortune now. But yeah, those moments of.
So just on that now, not that we've got a brief to talk about, but if there's a brief coming in, and that human experience can go across so many revenue streams. I remember when I was going to the place we're selling.
Yeah.
Or I remember going to the place we're selling to buy a pair of. So that that narrative.
Yeah.
But then immediately you're in your car, and because we love nostalgia.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That nostalgia pound is very the stuff that we want to relive as well.
I think we keep forgetting it. I'm just trying to think now of a great example. The Co-op advert on TV for the funeral. One life, 2 great episodes. 45 memories, 8 tributes, and they end up at the beach. And I know it's advertising funeral care, but it's got it's something heartfelt. Keep it simple. Keep it human. Use the basics. Don't overthink. But then you've got to bring your client on that journey. Trust me.